Modern fans, stormtroopers, I have a special guest for you tonight. Mitch Blankespoor. Mitch, welcome to the Epic Storm YouTube channel. You're no stranger here. How's it going?
Pretty good, Bryant. Thanks for having me again. Looking forward to jamming some Modern Storm tonight.
Mitch, you should feel pretty good. The last time you were here, our video was fairly successful. In fact, it is the highest viewed video on this channel. We're only a couple away from 5,000. So I'm going to credit you with that, Mitch.
Well, thanks for that. People love their Modern, people love their Storm, and when two nerds get together, sometimes good things happen.
Yeah, definitely. So, Mitch runs, for those of you that don't know or may not have watched the last video, Mitch runs the Modern Storm website, a real master. Mitch is incredibly wise when it comes to this deck, and I'm a novice next to Mitch. So, to talk Mitch up a little bit, tonight we're going to be playing Blue Red Storm.
Yeah, I do run a website. I've been a little bit not as active due to job commitments. Another week of craziness. I work in college athletics. For those of you who don't know, we're trying to jam pack a bunch of athletic events in one season. So that's been fun. But yeah, we're playing some Rug Storm tonight. We talked a little bit off air, but Bryant, why do you feel like now is a good time to splash green in Storm?
Well, we're going to get this right out of the gate then. So when you look at the metagame right now in Goldfish, so obviously you have Heliod Company in first. Like that's by far the best deck in the format. But right behind it, you have Jun Shadow, and then you have Is It Blitz. And not too far down the list, you also have Burn. And Is It Blitz and Burn might as well be the same deck for us outside of Eidolon. And whether the Storm really helps there, Jun Shadow, Veil Summer's a haymaker. Like it's just so good. So that's my main thought. I recorded a rug video not too long ago, Mitch, where the big takeaway was one green source was just not enough. So here we're going to see two breeding pools, but I even considered running two Misty Rainforest and a basic forest in the board. I don't think basic forest is that great personally, but I liked the idea of having a land that you could fetch that didn't shock you. Um,
Yep. Yeah, and that's definitely something that people have talked about before. I think as in our little discussion off before we went live, I think the problem with that is if you have a hand that has basic mountain and basic forest in it as your opener with two lands, that feels pretty bad. It is worth noting though that one of the sacrifices that you make when you decide to splash green, and you went over Bryant, I think very well. There are a lot of I, right now. I agree with you. A lot of reasons to play the green splash, but you do sacrifice a little bit of life in your mana base when you decide to play a third color.
I would agree with that. But Mitch, we have a secret weapon in playing green. Ancient Grudge. And it seems strange because right now, obviously, Affinity doesn't really exist in Modern anymore. So why would we play Ancient Grudge? Like, it doesn't make sense. Well, when you look at the best deck in the format, Heliod Company, and their sideboard, you'll see 3 to even 4 copies of Damping Sphere. Ancient Grudge, put that bad card in your gifts pile. Doesn't matter if it goes to hand or graveyard, you get that answer. Big fan of that.
Yep, and it's not super uncommon to see. Looking at Goldfish, you see some like control decks that are hovering around. Everyone loves to play their rock decks, whether you're splashing red or white or whatever. Those usually have Damping Sphere. Just another catch-all. And one thing I did want to mention too, Bryant, you had mentioned this before. I think we can both agree that the Heliad Company matchup is not a good one. Storm struggles against decks that are very quick, which game one Heliad Company is fast, and they also bring a crap ton of disruption. The 3 to 4 damping spheres, they could potentially have some creatures they can search up. It's just not a great matchup. And we're trying something per your recommendation, Bryant, pretty spicy in the sideboard for that matchup.
It is pretty spicy. We're talking about Echoing Truth, right? That's definitely the card. Uh,
Absolutely, absolutely.
yeah, we're talking Thassa's Oracle. So it's weird because Thassa's Oracle, we can't deck ourselves. Like, there's no easy way to deck yourself. But Thassa's Oracle does not care about infinite life. In theory, we could run something silly like Approach of the Second Sun or Jace, but Jace is the same thing except more difficult to cast. So with Thassa's Oracle, how are we churning through our deck, Mitch? Like, how are we going to draw our deck?
The plan is with the back half of Birgi, the Horn, and using our 12 one-mana cantrips, which, as we've said before in our previous video, synergizes with Aria Flame. You could also, in theory, if you have access to your graveyard in a post-war game, just churn through enough gifts piles where you're eventually just going to draw your deck. And Thassa's Oracle, as you said, Bryant, does beat Infinite Life. Now, it doesn't beat, obviously, Infinite Damage. If the Heliod opponent gets Ballista, still going to be in trouble. But one thing I'd like to point out that I think when Bryant brought this idea up to me, and my first response was, it feels like it's a little bit slow, but I think it's worth trying out. I think a lot of times Storm is a deck that you really don't have too many flex slots, right? Like, you're going to play your Rituals, you're going to play your Bears, you're going to play lands, you're going to play your Passing Flames, your Grape Shot, and they're really, we're talking, 10 to 12 maximum slots in your main deck that you can fluctuate with. And I really think that sometimes people get a little bit scared in trying something new. And I really would love to play against Heliod, even though it is the best deck in the format. We talked about it is probably not a great matchup, but just to see if this idea would work. And I think so, I really like to encourage anyone listening to this to try ideas. Like, Storm is still a deck that you can win. Like, you can win out of crazy spots with this deck, and one of the reasons to play it. And I think it's important to try new ideas, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I'm certainly someone that's not afraid to try new things. I mean, that's what this channel's for, is just seeing how far we can expand Storm combo and the mindset behind building Storm decks, from the Epic Storm to Pauper to Modern. And another thing is Dismember. This might seem like an average, run of the mill Storm card, and it sort of is, but we specifically chose Dismember. It's not Lightning Bolt and it's not Flame Slash. Dismember kills Captain Ranger of Eos on the opponent's turn for free if you have a Goblin Electromancer or Brawl. So it doesn't slow you down, and they don't get that silence effect on your turn if it's a Flame Slash. So I like the speed aspect, and I also like the fact that they can't, use that creature on your turn. So that's a big reason behind running Dismember. Has some applications in a few other matchups as well. I'm just a big fan of this card in general. I think more people
Yep.
should be playing it. The downside of Dismember, you can't board it in against Is It Blitz or Burn. That said, we're making up with that with Weather of the Storm and Aria and Echoing Truth and an additional copy of a Braid.
Yep, and one of the matchups that you mentioned Dismember being insane against, in my opinion, in addition to Heliod, which is the main reason we're playing it tonight, is like Jund Shadow. Any kind of Shadow matchup, it's going to be very good, and that's a very popular deck. It is a little bit interesting, as you said, to not play Lightning Bolt. We'll see if that comes up another matchup. The big disadvantage to Dismember, obviously, is it costs you 4 life, absent like a Manamorphose chain. And in aggressive matchups, you said Burn is a Blitz. You really can't afford to do that. You're going to die. But we do have the extra copy of a Braid and Weather the Storm, particularly against Burn and Blitz. I'm hoping we can get a blowout. I know on your last Teamer video or Rug video, you did very well with Weather the Storm, and hopefully we see that again.
Yeah, definitely. So, Mitch, this comes up in every video comment section that I upload for Giftstorm. Where's the repeal? It's not in our deck. I'm just going to be frank here. It's a stinky card. I don't want to play stinky cards in my deck. Because of that, we're running the Empty the Warrens here. This is really the flex spot. Like, you just want a card that it makes it so you don't lose to Meddling Mage. I've played just triple Grape Shot with no backup, and it's fine. That said, Empty's pretty good against Jund Shadow. I almost ran 3 Grape Shot tonight, but we're not running repeal. It's sort of like a wishful thinking slot. Like, everyone's like, yeah, but you can beat everything. That's not what happens, though. And, like, yes, you could, in theory, win out of any given situation. But how often does that actually happen versus you draw a card that's a 4-mana cantrip or a 3-mana cantrip that doesn't really impact the game?
Yep, and I think that's a very good thing to point out, Brian. I think for those of you who might not know, the origin of playing a bounce spell in the main deck, whether it was Unsubstantiate, Start, or Repeal, was when Humans was dominating Modern. And as you had said before, Brian, if you name Grape Shot with Meddling Mage, technically we are dead to that in game 1. But I think sometimes people, and I know you talk about this a lot, and I would say you tend to swing this way even a little bit more than me, is it's okay to lose to some fringe things in game 1. right? And when you play a card like Repeal, yes, it cantrips, but it's expensive. And oftentimes that can sort of slow your combo down or dilute your main game plan. And when you're playing a dedicated combo deck like Storm, you need to be careful not to do that.
Great points, Mitch. I definitely agree with that. Uh, and then one other last thing I'd like to mention is a lot of people they try Solundi Vision, which is a fine card. Like I'm not a huge fan, but it's respectable. It's reasonable. But then they run it with Birgi. Those are two conflicting game plans, and then they go, well, Birgi must be bad. You have to build your deck to maximize what it's trying to do. You can't run a 3 mana glorified impulse and then run Birgi and expect them to be synergistic, which is why we see the full complement of cantrips. Mitch mentioned running 12 cantrips with Aria, but it's also for Birgi slash Horn of or Horn. What is the back half of it called? Hornfell? Horn of
Yeah, I think
Bounty.
so.
Sorry,
Yep.
lost my words there. But yeah, I just want to call that out because it happens to come up in every video for Modern that I post, and I don't know if like maybe I'm not explaining it well enough. Maybe you have additional points to add. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Brian. I think Selene Vision is a fine card. It's sort of a, you know, I would call a slightly below average dig spell because it costs 3 mana, 2 mana with a bear out, and you're getting just one card. Yes, you get to dig a lot, but it's only one card. And the back half is a land that comes into play tapped. I get its flexibility. I don't think it's a terrible card to play, but as you said, I agree. When you're playing Arya Flame and Birgi, and also to point out when you're playing a card like Thassa's Oracle, in that game plan, we're going to want to churn through our deck and leave 0 cards in our deck, and playing the 12 cantrips will help there.
Yeah, definitely. So before we start playing our first match, I'd like to remind everyone we are going for 3,000 subscribers this month. We're about 200 away. So if you like this video, if you appreciate Mitch being here, if you love Modern Storm, please subscribe. Help us reach our goal. It would mean a lot to me. And yeah, it'd be pretty cool of you. Do it.
And also, last thing, if you like this modern content and you're also looking to legacy, there is no better place than the epicstorm.com for legacy content. I actually am the editor of that site, and I have learned a lot even before I became the editor and while I'm the editor of the epicstorm.com for legacy content. So be sure to check that out as well.
And you can find Mitch at Storm Modern on Twitter, but also Mitch has his own YouTube channel now, so make sure you subscribe to that as well if you want specifically Modern Storm content. Help support Mitch and what Mitch does. Great person and a very valued member of our team. All right, so round number 1 will be coming up in just a second. Don't go anywhere. Round number 1. Mitch, what do you think of this hand? Would you keep this?
Nope, can't keep it, unfortunately.
Oh, damn. All right, I guess we're going to mulligan. This one seems fine. We're going to bottom the Tarn. And, yeah. So a lot of people don't run fetch lands. When you run green, you need to play fetch lands. But we get to act a little bit like fetchless here by putting the Scalding Tarn on the bottom and abusing these cantrips just a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this empty card seems pretty good here.
Yep, I like both of these.
Hey, Mitch, remember earlier on today when I said I probably didn't want to play the empty? And now it's going to be terrific in our first game.
Storm gods, Bryant, let me tell you.
Oh, no. Maybe it's not going to be good. Is this Heliod?
That was my first thought as well.
I mean, we're still going to peanut butter and jam. I don't think Heliod plays this. Yeah, well, Serval Expedition is still pretty good against empty.
That is pretty funny.
Are we still supposed to jam here?
So, my inclination is yes, because our hand really isn't doing a whole lot else. I could certainly see waiting. What do you think?
I think I'm just gonna jam. Like we could wait a turn and then make 2 more, but I don't think the difference between 8 and 10 is gonna be the difference maker here.
that's a good thing to point out, Bryant, because there isn't a guarantee that our draw step and our op is going to find something that's going to get us any more goblins. And this is turn 2 right now. Unfortunately, Bryant was not a skilled magician, lost a die roll, so being on the draw a little bit less good. But I mean, 8 goblins in turn 2, you can't complain.
Yeah, definitely.
I have zero idea what our opponent's doing.
Yeah, neither do I.
It's funny that empty was potentially good for us here, Bryant, because earlier today I played the list that you shipped over just in a couple quick 2-mans, and I ended up losing to like double Plague Engineer out of a Jund deck. It was fun.
Well, I do like 3 Grape Shot. I'm a pretty big fan of that. Helps beat
Yep.
Force and Negation, but Empty's not bad either. Intangible Virtue, well, their tokens are better now. So they're just like a green-white tokens deck. Alright, well,
Yeah, it
these
does make
Goblin tokens
empty
are
look
not
pretty
good.
bad. Yep.
Clearly should have been... Oh, if we were more gutsy, we could have opted into the ritual and made 12 goblins, which probably still loses to this.
Right. To be fair, these goblins do give us like quite a bit of time.
Yeah. We're going to bottom this. We need
Yep.
action. That's pretty good.
That's action.
Actually, it would have been probably smarter to play the fetch there, trying to redraw the other desperate, because the other desperate would actually allow us to empty again for a whole bunch.
Yep.
Because now we have 2 desperates in our deck somewhere. We know that the other one is on the bottom. We used 2 pyretics previously.
So I can't imagine that our opponent is gonna have too much hate game 1 in green-white colors. Obviously, post-board games that is going to change, as it usually does.
Alright, so they're looking to flip their Legion's Landing here. Mitch, how do you feel about double blocking these?
I like it. We could. I mean, I'm trying to think of like, quote unquote, back in the day, a card like Zealous Persecution out of the black-white deck, but that would have been probably played already to get rid of our goblins. So I think this is fine. I mean, if we chump all 3 of them with just a single goblin, right, then we're left with, we can do that for sort of 2 to 3 turns.
All right, so they're going to be left with 1 token.
Yep. And this is that was a good block.
All right, I'm going to fetch that
Yep.
Desperate Ritual back into our deck. And this is one of the things that I talk about all the time when I talk about fetch versus fetchless. Is that like sometimes you don't want that card to stay on the bottom of your deck for the entire game. You just didn't need it at that moment.
Game states can change.
Yeah. So I think here we
This is kind of an interesting choice. I agree with you. Now, the only sort of semi-awkward thing is that next turn we do have a Pass in Flames line, but our only payoff is empty. And how good is empty right on this board?
Yeah. So another thing I'm wondering is, what is the number of goblin tokens that's good enough?
May have to open up a new tab and go to theepicstorm.com and pull up the calculator.
Well, it's not a calculator. It's just numbers for beating Stoneforge, and this is a little bit different than Stoneforge.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right, so they're hellbent other than this draw off bobble. So next turn we're taking 9, 14. Oh, I'm sorry, 9, 11. None of these creatures fly. Honestly, I'm thinking that here we just play Canal and pass.
I agree with you.
We're dead to another intruder, or another Raise the Alarm, but like, if that was their one draw, you tip your cap.
So to talk through that play a little bit, I think I'm gonna guess, Brian, what went through your head that went through mine too is, yes, we can piff here and make some goblins, but those goblins aren't gonna win us the game in the amount that we can make them, right? So let's try to give ourselves one more draw step.
Exactly. And by waiting, we generate one more mana. That mana can help us cast more cantrips out of the graveyard. That's the big thing for me.
Monastery Mentor, interesting.
Green white tokens. Where's the Gideon? Birgi, Birgi, Birgi! Alright. I haven't done the math yet on if we can actually abuse her or not.
So let's see, we have six
So
6 mana. If we play
Birgi,
Birgi,
Desperate is 4. I think this actually works. So we play Birgi, 2 mana for Pyretic, which makes 4, which is enough to cast Past in Flames. So we'll have 1 mana open. The Past in Flames makes 1. And
yep.
they have no hand. So this definitely works.
Now, of note, just for people that like a deck building decision, a Baral or Electromancer in this spot would have a very similar effect.
That is true. However, if we later draw one of those effects, the Birgi then becomes better.
Yep, in tandem for sure. So curious on your thought process here, Brian. Are you thinking probably, and again, this is another huge benefit, as you mentioned in our sort of deck tech, is the cantrips are now mana neutral and can make red, so we have the ability to cast them searching for better things while still leaving the empty the warrens to create a bunch of blockers line open.
That was a very good draw. Yeah, we can just like cantrip a little bit. Like there's no reason to cast empty. That's the big thing. So these cantrips are mana neutral, other than the fact that you're shifting blue to red, and we can possibly keep open. Ooh, this is so good. So good. Love it. So now we're gonna play Brawl, and like I mentioned before, they're just gonna concede. I was trying to have fun here.
Wow.
How dare you?
And to be fair, that's a pretty premature concession on the opponent's part because, I mean, maybe they don't know this, but we do not have a kill here. Right now, we may have gotten there, probably more likely than not.
So I'm
Brian,
willing to bet that
obviously this,
Echoing Truth is pretty good against the token deck. I'm just gonna throw
yeah,
that one out there.
was just gonna say that I'm curious what else you think that the opponent could have. I'm probably Rest in Peace.
I'm thinking maybe Damping Sphere, to be honest. So I'm less sold on Grudge and a little bit more sold on the Abrades, but we could
I
board in
agree with you.
Grudge. I don't think we necessarily need Dismember.
I don't either. Now they may play a card like Shalai, which is potentially reasonable, but I think if it's just Shalai, it's not worth it. The Abrades can like snipe a Monastery Mentor in a pinch too, which is very important. But in general, I mean that's the strength of the tokens deck, right? You can't beat them with spot removal spells.
So I don't love Remand. Like I don't know if there's anything I actually want to Remand. I also don't think I love Empty.
Yeah, empty is not good here. I agree.
So I mean, you're welcome to tell me that I'm wrong on Remand, but it just seems like none of their spells are that crucial, and I don't really want to be leaving my mana up.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think given that they aren't playing black, I could see. I feel like Remand is better against this version of tokens than it would be against one that's going to play discard. But if you have other cards that you like to take out better, I think Remand is just very medium.
All right, so we're down to 62, Mitch. In my head, part of me is wondering about Grudge right now. Like, is that a card we actually want to board in here?
So I think the luxury of winning game one is we get to see the opponent sort of play their cards. So I kind of like not playing Grudge here.
All right.
And if it were me, my last cut, which I know you kind of see differently on this, we talked about last video, I would potentially trim down to one Pass in Flames because we're going sort of on the Arya plan. I could see leaving in 2, and if you don't want to cut a piff, I think the last cut is probably just a single sleight of hand. What do you think about that?
That was actually what I was going to recommend.
Yep, that's fine.
I was going to recommend opt because we're boarding out the remand, and I think on average, sleight is more powerful.
I agree with you. Yep.
Slide our sideboard back up here. I know we don't have a wish board in this video, but it makes me feel more comfortable when I have it up there. And this hand is terrific. Love it.
This hand is great. This hand is very good. And one, 2 cards we didn't talk about if people were curious. Obviously, just to mention them, there isn't really a need for Weather the Storm or obviously Veil of Summer here.
Yeah. Like you could board in Weather the Storm, but it's not really what the matchup is about. Like you're not trying to gain 12 life against the green-white tokens deck. It's not really what the objective is. That and like their damage is recurring, which means that it's less effective compared to something like Burn, where those are temporary effects.
Yep. One of the things that I think about Weather Storm, just the way my brain operates, Brian, is how many, on average, how many turns are you going to gain by Weather the Storm, right? And against a deck like Burn or Blitz, you're going to gain quite a few turns. Against this deck, it might be 1, maybe 2. Like you saw, like everyone saw game 1, right? Like we were dead. Like that board state, we're never coming back and fighting off that board state, either killing them or dying, right?
Yeah. They named White Whisperal. Just want to make sure. Sometimes it's a sneaky play for the opponent to maybe name Blue for a sideboard card or something like that. It's always good to check.
Or Black for like, Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy, something like that.
Definitely. So assuming that we draw a card that isn't a land, are you of the opinion that we play Brawl or Serum Visions?
Now that we drew another bear, I think I like playing one of the 2 here. I think the most likely removal spell is Path to Exile, and we're okay getting ramped here. What do you think?
I would agree. I'll be honest, I was always going to play the creature. I was just interested in your input.
Yep. Nope.
It looks like we're getting pathed. Oh no. Raise the alarm. The reason I play Brawl, by the way, is if they play a creature, this blocks better. I wasn't necessarily thinking they were going to raise the alarm on our turn, but even if they play the flash, whatever it's called,
Virtue. And also
Force of Virtue.
Force of Virtue. Yep. One also thing to glean from that, Bryant, see if you agree here. That's a good draw. I think our opponent doesn't have Monastery Mentor, because I think the chances they would run it out on turn 2 on the play are like very, very high.
So right here we have a few different lines we can take. We can play Aria and just pass. We can play Goblin Electromancer into Grape Shot for killing 2 of these. We could just play Electromancer Visions. Mitch, what are you thinking?
Yeah, really interesting turn. I think I lean towards either Electromancer Serum Visions or Aria Flame, maybe slightly towards Aria Flame. I don't like the Grape Shot play here. I don't think that their board is super threatening, and obviously, as you said, they could play Intangible Virtue, they could play Force of Virtue, but I just don't think that's what we want to be doing right now. Do you tend to agree with me?
I think Aria slightly hedges. So the problem with going the Goblin Electromancer Visions line is it shuts off Aria for the rest of the game, at least in my opinion, because you're wasting one of your few you need this cantrip to start the Aria chain, and if you play the cantrip first, this Aria is essentially another dead card in your hand. So just by taking one turn off, you're going to benefit, and our life total is still pretty high, as Mitch said.
And also playing the Electromancer, like it's pretty clear that our opponent doesn't have Path to Exile, because I think they would have used it.
Yep, and I'm not going to block here. If for some reason they have double pump spell, or or double anthem or a pump spell, I'm not going to risk that. This Brawl means more to me in play than a few extra damage, and they had the Force of Virtue last turn. Interesting draw.
And also, like, how much, even if you block and, they're assuming the opponent had nothing else, we just saved 2 damage. Does that really matter? I don't know.
Yeah. Wow, this person just really hates Storm.
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't
so I
know.
guess we're going to win. I want to draw a few cards, see what we're going to do. So that would have been a
Yeah.
bad draw.
Yep. We did.
Yeah, they conceded very early. So my plan there would have been to abrade one and then grape shot. Um,
Yep.
but it
Yep.
is
Just
what
to
it
slow
is.
them down again, the Arya Flame is the one that's taking up, and I feel like this is an even more premature concession than in game one. Don't you think?
Excuse me. Sorry, I was trying to hold that in till like the end of the video, and it just came out. I'm disgusting. Please forgive me. But Mitch, I hope you're ready for another win. I'm just assuming that
Always.
we're going to win. We're on the play,
Always.
and I heard that's pretty good.
It is great.
I don't know about you, Mitch, but I would definitely keep this hand.
This hand is also great.
Everything's turning up Mitch and Bryant tonight. Opponents conceding for no reason. These hands, everything's terrific.
Yep.
Other than that initial empty the Warrens.
Looking up our opponent quickly on Goldfish, it looks like their last couple modern events were either like some kind of Urza artifact deck or Jund Death Shadow.
So I decided to take Birgi over the ritual there. The ritual says, hey, I'm going to win with something else later. But honestly, Mitch, I just want to jam some Bergs.
Always. And we also have a redundant ritual in our hand. I think that's the right call. 10 out of 10. Looks like Urza here.
Some
No.
sort of gack? It is some sort of gack.
Yep. Yep.
So I don't know about you, but I'm considering ritual Birgi here.
Yep.
Ooh,
The only reason
I'm
I
definitely doing
wouldn't do that, that's fine. The only reason I maybe wouldn't do that is hold up Remand. But I don't blame you for this aggressive play.
So, whoa. It's not aggressive. The reason to do it is that the Birgi now turns these into desperate rituals. And honestly, I don't think they have a whole lot that's worth remanding. That's the big reason is like they're gonna have a bunch of small creatures like carrion feeders. Like what are you really remanding? Like was I supposed to
Sure.
bounce the crab here?
Yeah, the only one maybe would be like a cathartic reunion, but it seems like they're not playing red, at least for now.
All right. So a question that I have is how we're going to sequence our turn.
Hmm.
Ooh. All right. So that's interesting. I think we start on Brawl because Brawl's going to make a red. Then we can Manamorphose. Yeah, I like this.
That's an important thing to note that I just for a half second was about to tell you that's a dumb play because Birgi does make mana off of creature spells.
All right. Well, I'm glad that we figured that out together. I'm going to add 2 blue here. Wow. This ritual's going to make 4 mana. Bananas. So
Come
I have
on
a
top of the
backup
deck.
plan right now, which is I'm going to cast this Opt, which just exchanges for red mana. And if I need... Ooh, I definitely want to
Wow.
Metamorphose. If we
I
need
think I know
to,
where you're
we
going
can
here.
remand our own Manamorphose and then draw a card, trigger, make a bunch of mana.
Yep.
I can just cast the Morphos right now. We can always remand the
Yep.
ritual as well.
Yep. So again, Gifts and Given wins here. Pass and Flames likely wins here.
All right. We're going to remand. I love how all these are just making mana. I'll
Well,
take
that's
an
something.
empty.
Gotta love it, Bryant. You're talking about the Storm Gods are getting back at you for potentially wanting to cut Empty the Warrens, and now we're just seeing our one of all over the
Exactly.
place here.
I don't want to count my chickens, though. It costs blue, my bad. So what Brawl would you keep? It's a pretty important question here. Left or right?
Probably the left.
All right, left. I mean, it was on the table first.
Now, again, of note, it's could be a possibility that this isn't enough, but we found a payoff,
Yeah.
and obviously we're going to cast it.
So they're at 22, which is pretty important. I'm going to try to get in with the Birgi here. So really the card that I'm worried about is Crippling Chill. Or Creeping Chill. What I never remember the name of that card. Creeping Chill.
It's Creeping Chill.
They have two of
Yep.
them in their deck. So they have to get through with something. Well, there's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
We need to block this because if not, the other chill kills us.
Yep. I think this is a force block as well.
We're not in a great spot. I'd love Past in Flames here. Dream's still alive.
Jeez.
I think honestly we just draw this Past in Flames next turn and like we're just gonna pass.
Yeah, I was just trying to count for a second. So the opponent has 3 creatures that can block.
But why? Like we have a kill next turn. Like all you
Right.
can do is possibly risk doing combat math here and losing.
Well, right. I'm just thinking, do we have lethal? If we swing with everything, the opponent blocks Birgi, and then 2 others, and they're at 1. So yes, we have to pass. Sorry, I was just slow on the math there.
Oh, sorry, that's my fault, Mitch. I did that math in my head last turn.
That's fine. Yep, you were
yeah.
you were well far ahead of me there. Yep. If the opponent hadn't milled a Creeping Chill, we would have killed them there with Gobos.
It's worth noting they also had the option of milling us, and they chose not to because we spread a card to the top.
Yeah. Now it wouldn't. Actually, it would have mattered potentially, even though we have Gifts and Given. But if we were hellbent there, we couldn't have cast Past in Flames.
All right, I don't want to get nervous and misclick, so I'm just going to block with this now. It would be safer to block with a Goblin token, just for some like Collector Brutality. Like there's a number of cards that they could theoretically have that punish the brawl block there, but it should have been the Goblin token. And now we get to see. Oh no, we can't cast it. Oh no. Did I just mess that up?
Yeah, we're short. We're short of mana.
I scryed a land to the bottom too. In my head, I was like, "Oh, we can cast it." Oh crap! I might have just punted this game away.
So the optimal play would have been putting a land on top and then casting Gifts and Given and then getting standard pile because Gifts and Given makes a mana with Birgi, right? But then if our opponent gives us Manamorphose and Past in Flames, we still have to hit.
I probably would have left them both on top, to be honest.
Right. I was just thinking about if we could have won this past turn with just the land and not the pith.
Oh, Narcomoeba. Ah.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so now we need to draw well.
Yep.
I was like, where are these attackers? So you're saying there's a chance.
Yep, any mana source.
That does it.
Yep.
Go to 1.
So again, for those of you just maybe newer to the deck, not following sort of our mistake there. So what should have happened is should have kept both on top, the Pass and Flames and the land, and then we would have had a guaranteed win. Now, to be fair, even with our mistake, we had a lot of outs in the deck that were very good for us there.
Yeah. Regardless, I misplayed. That's my own fault.
Right, for sure. Well, I did too. I didn't stop you.
I did it pretty quickly. We're not going to blame you, Mitch. Mitch, you're perfect. It was all me.
Yeah, right, of course.
Let's make some blue mana now. Let's just show the opponent that they're dead, I guess.
Yep.
Why is it taking so long? Oh, it's because I don't know how to click blue. Okay, I was like, am I lagging or are they conceding? All right, so we got game number 1. Mitch, are all of our games going to be this easy with me punching and us still getting wins?
Yeah, opponent's conceding way too early.
So here's
I'm
a
curious.
interesting thing. So Veil of Summer, Mitch. This does not stop Creeping Chill. Fun fact. Do you think that Veil is still worth boarding in?
It's a great question. I was just going to ask you what you think the opponent's going to bring in as far as hate's concerned.
I've never faced this deck before.
Yeah, I would in theory think potentially some discard spells. They could play some counter spells, although I would guess probably not. Maybe like a Dispute or two.
Okay. Well, I don't like
could
Remand,
play like
so
no,
I would like
Remand's
to board that
terrible. Yeah, could play like Nihil Spellbomb. Obviously, the opponent can't mess with their own graveyard.
They could be a Leyline of the Void deck, so I don't hate maybe bringing in Arias.
Sure.
We're up a game, like you said in round 1. I'm going to reserve the right to not board in Veil of Summer here. Until I see the counterspell or discard spells, I don't really want to board them in. They are a black deck, but...
The only one I was going to potentially think about was Echoing Truth.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't hate that. If they have like a Damping Sphere or something. So this is a risky one. Mitch, we're on the draw. Would you keep this?
So it is risky. I think I tend to live a little bit frisky, and I think I do keep this hand because it has a lot of elements. If we find a land, now we're relying on the top, first card of our deck, then 2 from sleight of hand, then another one for our draw step. It's definitely close, but I think given the contents of the hand, I tend to keep. What do you think?
Live fast. There was not a doubt in my mind that I was going to keep this. Getting crabby. Alright, so we did not hit a land there. And actually, this is a pretty bad draw.
Yep.
I like getting the guaranteed blue-red land here just because you do have more blue
100%.
sources in the deck between Island and then just Breeding Pool. Alright, I'm going to take the Morphos.
Yep.
If we need to discard next turn, I'm discarding a Gifts, but hopefully we're not in that situation.
I still think this hand, even though we might whiff here, is better than an average 6.
Yeah, that hand was fine. So, assuming that they cast a creature here, they are bringing back double Vengevine. We are not long for this world.
Yep.
Triple Vengevine.
And Amalgam, too, at the end step, right? Wow.
Yeah. So, we got Nut Drawn. Even if we had a turn 2 Brawl, it is not good enough. Nope. So, we actually need to get really lucky here. Because we would be dead on their turn 3. So, we would need to hit a land, play Desperate Ritual, Manamorphose into another Manamorphose.
Yep.
That's the line here. What a draw. So they did have Leyline of the Void.
Yep. Good call on that one. Well, step 1.
Well, I am lagging right now. because that just moved to my second main phase.
Bryant, if we rip this off, like, you're going to have me on every Modern Storm video you ever do.
I'm in.
For, like...
Oh, no, I accidentally... Well, we didn't hit anyway. Yeah, I am definitely lagging right now. Maybe I just clicked double red on accident, but I meant to click blue.
I've definitely done that with Morphos before.
Alright, so I want the Echoing Truth. That was a good call, Mitch. I think I board out like a Gifts. I guess you could argue that this is a speed-based matchup, but we saw Leyline.
Yeah, I definitely... forgive me if I didn't see anything in the graveyard that I should, but I definitely don't think Veil here. Do you agree?
Yeah. I'm just going to board out the Gifts. It's okay to shade one. We're boarding in Arias.
The only other card I maybe would board out, Ryan, is the copy of Empty the Warrens, but it does buy us time.
Well, it's also good against Leyline. So I don't love it, but
that's true.
Having...
It's hedge. That's hedge. Good hedge.
Yeah. Like, at worst, it could buy us a few turns. I cannot keep that. And here we are. I'm going to bottom the turn once again.
That Empty the Warrens, man.
Alright. Our opponent's deciding on whether or not they are keeping. We're having a real cook-off here. Bryant_Cook versus H. Cook.
The bottom here is most likely Scalding Tarn.
Correct.
Yep.
Our opponent's also decided to ship. And they're going to 5.
Maybe digging for that ley line. Did not hit, though. I guess maybe you could make a small argument to keeping the Tarn because you're thinning one land out of your deck because we don't have a turn 1 play anyways, but I don't know if that really matters.
If we draw a Ritual, we can actually make 10 Goblins.
That's true.
Well, I will also accept Gifts and Given.
Yep.
And we're less likely to draw a second now because we brilliantly boarded out the 4th copy.
Love it.
It's a skill game.
There's one thing that's pretty bad here for us. I'm not going to say it.
Okay. I'm trying to think of what could be bad now.
I'll tell you after the turn.
Okay. Well, they don't have a green up, so there's no Veil of Summer. They could have Mystical Dispute. This deck probably doesn't play Fluster.
The card that I was thinking was just like Fatal Push, right? Like
Gotcha.
we get set off a little bit by, or quite a bit here. But if our opponent doesn't have anything here, this is quite good for us. They killed us turn 3, game 2. We'll try to do the same thing to them game 3.
Return the favor. I'm a fan of that.
Yep. Also of note, if the opponent were to have one of those cards that you mentioned, mainly Mystical Dispute, which clearly they did, and they'd probably cast it here, we still can't empty the Warrens as a backup plan. So I'm assuming, Bryant, you're just going standard pile here. And
correct.
If the opponent had removal, they'd have cast it. If the opponent had a counterspell, they'd have cast it. About the only thing that could potentially happen, it would be some form of graveyard, instant speed graveyard interaction.
That's what I was going to say before you started talking. I was going to say there's two cards here that I was after Mystical Dispute, and it was going to be Surgical and Trap.
Yep.
And our opponent's conceded.
Is it fair to say that if knowing that they play Leyline of the Void, it's probably less likely they have either of those two cards?
I would strongly say that, yes.
Yep.
All right, so
2-0, baby.
2-0. Mitch. We are likely facing Jeskai control. We're on the draw. I like the double gifts and given sort of hands here. Cast one on their end step, untap, cast another. Uh, you feel confident in that plan?
100% agree. If we're playing Jeskai control, I think this hand is good. We just need to make sure we hit our land drops and we have a 1 mana cantrip to help us do that.
Great choice of island. So playing sleight of hand first here, we're definitely going to take the mountain. You could argue like, hey, I think that you should play opt. Well, if we happen to draw remand, opt synergizes a little bit better. All right, and we didn't, so I'm going to cast this Serum Visions. Wow. Mitch, you called the empty, and then it was there.
Every game, man. Every game one, we're drawing it. I've come across this playing some like Jeskai decks, Brian. I wonder the sort of new tech seems to be like cleansing wildfire your own flagstones to ramp yourself. Have you come across that at all, or no?
I have not.
Okay. I was just looking at the last deck list our opponent played. It was playing 4 flagstones of Trocaire, and we saw that here turn 2.
I'm a little nervous, but I still want to jam.
Yep. Now, here's an interesting question for you, Brian. How many resources do you go in here on Empty the Warrens? I think you could make an argument to not blowing the entire load of our hand because we have gifts and given in our hand. What do you think?
Well, I think that if they're going to counter one, it's going to be this Morphos.
Yep.
So that's why I'm leading here.
Yeah, I love it. In which case, we can go Ritual into Empty. That's very good sequencing by you.
So it looked like they wanted to cast a spell there and then decided not to. I am not going to... like, 8 goblins is good enough for me. I don't need to make more than that. So I'm just going to resolve this.
Yep, I 100% agree. Mainly because we don't have a 4th land. And I think you could see a strong argument to wanting to Ritual Gifts and Given on their end step.
They had their own remand. They got a
Sounds
force
fine.
negation here? They did. And they exiled the remand, so that was a win all around.
Yep. And now the beauty of, and we're seeing the strength of our one copy of Empty the Warrens is creating sort of a sub game here where eventually the opponent's going to have to answer these goblin tokens. When in reality our hand is shaping up to where we're going to be able to win without these goblin tokens. I'm going to guess big Teferi here.
Alright, so we're going to be able to grape shot that Teferi, most likely. So
now, do we want to go Ritual Gifts Ungiven before the untap here?
That's what I was wondering, if that's the play that we should do. Is that what you want to do?
I think that's what I would do, yes.
Okay. What are you getting with gifts?
That's a great question. I think you could make an argument. My inclination here, which, again, this is what makes this deck really difficult, is this exact card where it's not, a standard pile. I think my first inclination is to get, like, a mix of lands and cantrips and just continue developing our board state.
So I'm with you, but I want 1 Past in Flames, just because the longer this game goes, the value of having 1 Past in Flames somewhere. But
do you not want to get that with the second Gifts and Given, or are you worried that's going to get countered potentially?
It might not resolve.
Okay.
So here I'm interested in just getting triple cantrip and then the Pith.
Okay.
We're most likely looking for lands with these cantrips. But
we're definitely on the same page that we're in no position to go for any kind of kill here, right? Our opponent still has to answer these goblin tokens, and let's just try to continue developing our board. Yep. So we had kind of the same idea.
But the reason why you get cantrips over lands here is that eventually this Past in Flames might resolve, and you're going to want more spells.
Sure, that's fair. And we also have we did draw the land here. If it were me, I would attack first,
Yep, definitely.
right? Go all at Teferi, and then if we didn't draw the land, I'm assuming your plan would be cantrip and then grape shot both copies at Teferi in case
Correct.
one gets countered.
And the
Yep.
reason that you attack here first is this exact play. They're going to
Mhm.
ramp up our storm count.
And they're also trying to save their Teferi, right? Because the opponent's down in cards, having to use Force of Negation to get rid of 2 goblins, basically.
I love this. This was actually terrific.
Bryant, you are a magician at drawing Empty the Warrens and multiple copies of Metamorphose. I should figure
Lots
out
of
how
years of
you
practice,
do that.
mostly.
That's right. That's right.
All right, so here I'm going to grape shot them for 1 and Teferi for 3. I just want to make sure that Teferi gets off the board.
Mhm.
And if for some reason they happen to have another Force of Negation in hand, why lose to it?
Right. And if the opponent has Spell Snare, Force of Negation, and a blue card, so be it.
All right, so they're taking 2 off this Vents. A little bit of a lag here.
So 2 off the Vents, Bryant, does that signal to you like Cryptic Command plus something? That's what it signals to me, but I'm curious what you think.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Okay.
They already had 1 red, so now you have to ask yourself why would they want more. And it looks like it might be a Shark Typhoon. Yep.
Shark Typhoon. Yep.
Like, to me, the Cryptic Command line didn't make sense because they'd need a 4 and a 2. But now we possibly get to win with this Baral.
Mm-hmm.
Really want a ritual here. I will take that.
Nuts, man. That's amazing.
So another ritual would still be pretty desirable because then we could play out Birgi. So the Morphos here is free, and then we have enough to flashback Piff.
Just have it all. I love it.
I'm trying to think if there's a way that we can beat Force of Negation. They're F6.
Well, I mean, just for the exercise.
So we could Gifts and Given for another Past in Flames Remand and then more mana.
Yep, could do that.
But if you do that, you go down to 3 mana floating. If they gave you Remand Pith, you could technically still do it. I think it's free. So we have 7 mana. Yeah, I think it's just free to do this. It's worth noting that, like with Force Negation, Remand might not even be good enough, just because it does return the Force Negation to their hand. But at least here, we're getting a second Past in Flames.
It would also check the opponent having to have another blue card, right? They would have to have Force Negation plus 2 blue cards instead of 1.
Correct.
So actually, the way that the opponent split that pile, if they did have Force of Negation,
they would have gotten another turn.
We can remand it, but we don't have any mana left. Now we could remand into a land, right? Because I don't believe you played a land this turn.
That's true. So you might be like, why aren't you dunking on them? Why don't you play out Birgi? Why would you give your opponent that information?
Yep.
Like, I don't want my opponent to know that I Birgi.
I don't know about you, Bryant, but I've always really enjoyed. I mean, Force Negation does make it more difficult, but the Storm against control matchups are some of my favorite to play with this deck.
Yeah, I used to like it more before Force Negation, to be honest, because
100%, yes.
it was an art. Like you like had to pick your spots. You could like double pieces of the puzzle. You could really grind out this like beautiful long game where on like turn 13 you resolve past in flames. And now I feel like it's less interesting because of Force Negation, but
Yeah.
that's what it
Now,
is.
from the control player side, they would say it was less fun when Jataxian Probe was legal. But hello, Veil of Summer.
Yeah,
Here
they're
now we did
part of
of
the reason
note
they're on the
we
board.
yeah we couldn't obviously prevent this, but our opponent will, if they're smart, they will know they're coming because we did show the breeding pool in game one. Again, that's not something we could really prevent. We just drew it naturally.
Yeah. And our opponent's last list doesn't have a whole lot of stuff. They do have surgicals in the board, and then Aether Dusts, and then a few copies of Mystical Dispute, but no permanent hate.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I want to shave one Gifts Given. It's I feel like it's pretty free to do, and I don't mind boarding down on like goblins. Like I just don't know if this is what we want to be doing, especially when we're boarding in Arias.
I agree with you, especially because they're playing red removal. I kind of feel like in the blue white matchup, I would almost rather I like them because they have less removal. But I agree with this. Um, we got to shave two more cards
I have a
here.
thought, but I feel like it's blasphemy.
Okay, what's your thought?
So they are playing big toughs. They have answers. Do we want Birgi slash Horn? They also have Force and Negation for Horn. I feel like
They
it might be a
also
little bit of a
have
pipe dream.
yeah, they also have small Tef, which
Yeah.
can also bounce. What can also bounce horn. You could leave one horn in and shave one mana cantrip. I don't know if I would shave more than one because we're on the Aria plan, and Veil of Summer also does cantrip too.
I'm
So
gonna
you can maybe make an
disbar that.
argument to leaving one in, but let's try it without.
Yeah. So I guess I didn't realize this. Small Tough is still legal in Modern.
Sadly,
I don't know why. I just thought that Small Tough was banned. I guess it was banned out of Pioneer only. I just haven't seen it in a long time.
but looking at the opponent's deck list, they have two big Teferi, three small Teferi, three Cryptic Command. Um, Now you could make the argument that all those things also bounce Aria Flame. Why are you bringing Aria Flame? Because Aria Flame A is easier to recast. B, it also we can also kill Planeswalkers before the opponent removes it. Um, that's kind of why, in my opinion.
All right. So I chose not to get Breeding Pool there. I don't want to tip off that I have Veil. Um, and here,
And that's pretty.
unfortunately, I'm just going to take the Breeding Pool.
Yep,
But
that's
that was
pretty
a
heads up play,
self-conscious
Bryant.
decision.
Yep, I probably wouldn't have done that. Props to you on that one. And now again, like we drew it, but if our opponent is playing that level, that deep of a level, thinking about our sequencing, the fact that we drew it naturally rather than fetched it is could not signal Veil of Summer. So here's the play I was talking about in game one, where this is like the new thing to do. You just like ramp yourself, basically.
Sure.
I mean, I don't really know. Like, I'm not a control player, so. And I like the fetch here again because this is going to further tell our opponent that we probably don't have Veil of Summer if they don't give us a reason to cast it.
So here, I think I'm actually going to get a Steam Vents and Shock. I want the extra blue source. I want the red.
Yep.
And
Life total is not very relevant against control decks.
I also like
it's not
leaving one basic in the
irrelevant.
deck for Path to Exile reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh my
Why
word.
would we not play this, Mitch?
I don't know. I don't know. This is crazy. I love it. See, I think what's actually happening is the Storm Gods are like, so since Tess has moved a little bit away from Empty the Warrens, we're just gonna give it to Brian Modern like all the time. Just can't.
I mean, it works for me. I'm choosing to play a little bit more conservatively here and just pass.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
So I want to be able to cast our rituals and sleight of hand and veil all in one turn, and
Yep.
like just going for it right now is a little bit greedy in my opinion.
Yep, I was just going to ask about that very thing, and I also think there's even more reason to wait because our opponent has no pressure, right? They don't have a planeswalker, like there isn't, and that's the number one thing that I see Storm players make a mistake. Bryant, I don't know if you see this against control decks, is they feel like they get antsy and feel like they have to quote unquote go for it, um, when necessarily like we don't really even have to go for it this turn,
Yeah, I'm not. Like, I drew the land, and
right?
now I don't want to.
Right.
Like, we saw Remand, if I need to recast a spell, like a ritual, I want that one extra mana just chilling.
Our opponent's last deck list played one Supreme Verdict main, one board. So shock there to you, again, to me, could be Shark Typhoon. My first thought is Crypt to Command plus something.
I think you're just obsessed with Cryptic Command, but I think that this is a good spot to go for it. So you could try to splice here, but then that splice ritual has such a big target on it that I don't like it.
Yep,
Um,
I agree.
so I don't love that play. Come on, just
Hmm.
let me cast my spells. So I would actually love if they tried to fight over this ritual.
Yep. Hmm.
Take the remand, I guess. Ten goblins. They probably think that we play like 7 of this in our deck. But they're not fighting over this at all, so that tells me that they actually have a sweeper.
Yep.
And there it is.
Hmm.
Now we just wasted 4 cards. It's alright.
But again, our opponent has no pressure, right? Like I definitely don't think
Ooh.
if we're quote unquote behind, it's only slightly.
What do you
Um,
think about keeping both of these? Is that too greedy?
so they're both good cards, obviously. Um,
I think I
we
want to.
I do too. I think we kind of want to find land, um, because we eventually want to get this piff turned on. But again, there's no rush, right? Like our
Yeah.
opponent's not giving us any reason to rush.
Also, I just want to be a little bit self aware of the clock in case we lose this game. We're spending a lot of time discussing stuff. Um, just we're down 5 minutes. So if there is a game
That's
3, I
code
just don't
for
want to.
that's code for Mitch. Shut up and let me play.
No,
Skip.
that's not that at all. It's just I would like to
You,
faster to the
you
points.
yep. You want to make sure that we have enough time in case there's a game 3 that goes long. I agree.
All right.
So we kind of know what we're drawing, right? So we're just kind
Yep.
of in F6 mode here.
And if we
Or not
need to,
F6 mode,
we
but
can always
S.
Morphos to create another green. If we needed to Veil of Summer for some reason. I doubt we will, but the option's there. I think we're secretly a rug control deck. I would love if they tried to tap out for Teferi. I don't think that's going to happen, though. They're just moving to discard.
Great. So I'll try to talk on our opponent's turn here for you, Brian. Ooh.
I did say that they had 2 surgicals, so that's one of them.
Yep. Does that strike you as like really aggressive
It does. But
for the
also,
opponent?
in the back of my head, I am now looking at maybe a grape shot win.
Our
So,
opponent also could have done it like for information.
Yeah.
right?
The second Piff was a bad draw because if they have 4 Snapcasters in their deck, so if we discard this to hand size, we're actually sort of in trouble. So, Mitch, because of that, I think we're incentivized to cycle Manamorphose if our opponent doesn't do anything.
Agree.
Well, we're definitely going to remand this.
Yep. And unfortunately for us, this is a card that like really forces our hand because it just turns off a lot of our hand.
Well, we can definitely remand the Teferi. And the thing about Veil Summer is you don't have to cast it as Cryptic Command. It can just be Green Silence if you need it to be.
Who's obsessed with Cryptic Command now?
True.
Are they remanding their own Teferi?
They
Yep,
are.
they are.
So, what's the play here?
Boy, it's really interesting.
Am I supposed to remand my own remand?
That's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah, I actually kind of like that.
This is strange.
This is a very, very strange stack for Storm, 100%.
Let's screenshot this.
Yeah, I like that. I like it.
I love the land.
It's great.
And unless they drew a land here, they have to discard.
Yeah, I was going to say the only thing that punishes us for this if our opponent goes land and then Teferi.
Yeah.
But then they're completely tapped out. I don't know if they would do that.
Well, unfortunately, even though they're tapped out, we can't do a whole lot.
Yeah, with those, did they get how many Desperates were in our 2 were in our yard before the surgical?
So they surgical, so we're down to just 3 rituals left in our deck.
Mm-hmm.
I had Bolt. I think I'm just going to play out this turn. Go get a Breeding Pool. And that will be our last fetchable land, by the way. This Breeding Pool, because we drew the last island. So now all of these Cleansing Wildfires are just straight up 2 mana, destroy all your stuff.
Now, of note, our opponent doesn't know that per se.
Yeah.
Right, but you are correct.
And I'm going to leave this. I'm not going to shock here.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know about you, Bryant, but I kind of hope our opponent fights over this, and then, which they didn't. I was hoping our opponent would fight over this and then potentially tap themselves low.
So this might actually be a decent spot for us.
Yep. Wow. How do you feel about leading on Veil of Summer here?
That's what I'm thinking as well.
Mm-hmm.
If they have the other surgical, we might be in trouble. They pitched a remand, so that means that their hand is absolutely stacked.
Yep. Now, again, just for those of you who may not be familiar, we couldn't have responded with Veil because the Teferi's in play.
Correct. I sort of want a Visions here. Just maybe that's not right. So, let's say I just play Baral, Manamorphose.
If you play Baral and then Morphos, I would venture a guess the opponent's almost certainly gonna kill Baral in some capacity. Do you agree?
I think I want a Visions just to see if we can draw a ritual. Oh, that was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want these? I don't know.
Boy, it's tough.
Alright, I imagine our Brawl's about to die, but I'm gonna
Hmm.
cast this. Rip Brawl.
Yep. Well,
Alright.
now we do let our opponent draw a card here with the Teferi, but I think that's fine. It's about to say we're getting to the point in the game where our opponent's just going to start jamming stuff.
Yeah, we were definitely falling a little bit behind.
Yep, 100%. But again, going back to the original beginning of this game, if our opponent doesn't have one of their two ofs in Supreme Verdict, the game might be over by now. We also haven't seen this is why Aria Flame is very good in this matchup. Even though opponent has potential to remove it, we could kill Teferi or maybe even Jace. And the fact we haven't seen it yet is not great.
I think I'm gonna gift just to see if they'll counter.
Mm-hmm.
So many dead Barals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Alright, they're down to 2 cards.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the Jace is just very powerful, obviously. Anybody who's played any amount of Legacy or just cast that card and be able to brainstorm every turn is really powerful. But again, we're at the point in the game where both sides are just going to start, this is the point in the game where I remember saying earlier where sometimes I feel like Storm players are too quick to go. This is a board state where we kind of don't have a choice
I
because
think I
the
like
game's going
jamming
to get
here.
worse and worse for us. I agree. Yep. The game's going to get worse and worse for us with the opponent brainstorming every turn. The chances that this works are not great, but we don't really have our plays forced here, in my opinion.
Yeah. And they can even let this resolve and then just counter the first ritual.
Mm-hmm.
We're just gonna put that right on top. Next turn we can just cast it again.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they can Fate Seal it.
That's fine.
That's one
Means
turn where they're not brainstorming though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They didn't. So we get an opportunity to cast that Past in Flames again.
Do you also think, Bryant, with their play as Aether Gust, that the opponent probably doesn't have the other Surgical or Snapcaster Mage?
I'm not sure.
Because if they do, why would they not just Aether Gusted the ritual and then Surgical to Piff, right?
Yeah. That's a line that someone with a lot of experience would take. But we don't know how much our opponent has experience in this matchup, so that's just a tough call. The aggro helix.
So the opponent did have Snapcaster Mage, so I think that's a punt on their part. But again, I'm not a control mage, so. But you would think that would, rather than just snap helixing, unless they have enough burn to kill us, which maybe is true, that they would cut off our Past in Flames would seem way better for them, to me.
They're up to 5 cards now. Yeah, I just doubt that this is ever going to matter. We're dead, but might as well keep casting.
Yep. Wow, is that 3 Aether Gust?
It is.
Man.
So our next turn is our last one. They're going to attack us to 2. They could even bounce their snap.
Yep.
And then both.
We're dead on board. Yep, we're dead on board.
All right. So Mitch, is there anything you want to change about going into game 3?
I definitely don't think we want the Horn, given the fact they've showed us 3 Aethergus. And again, going back to my original point about, like, yes, that card answers Aria Flame as well, but as you saw, the fact that they're trying to win the game off walkers, Aria Flame killing all those walkers is just such a big game, that I think we're forced to play Aria Flame here. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
I
I
don't
don't think I want to
see
change
other.
anything.
No, no. I mean, maybe the fourth copy of gifts and trim one cantrip because Veil of Summer cantrips, but that would be it.
Uh,
It's like minutia details.
yeah, it seems terrific.
Hmm. And like Teferi Time Raveler is just like a great Magic card, right? Like the whole game, when we started slipping behind, was because that card forced our hand, and then the opponent played Jace.
So, do you think now that they know about Breeding Pool, I'm willing to go search it up on turn 2?
Hmm.
How do you feel about playing Brawl with like
This
Remand
next
back
turn,
up?
um,
I'm just asking a question. I'm not saying that this is right. I'm just asking a question.
well, this turn would be Baral with Veil back up, right? Not Remand.
Well, you'd have both, but is that a line that you would be looking to
Well,
take?
you would if Baral resolves, right? If Baral doesn't
Correct.
resolve, we can't Remand.
Yes.
Um, I kind of like playing Serum Visions here
Okay.
and waiting. I think our opponent may tap out for Teferi. I don't know. I'd like to find our fourth land.
Well, I like the gifts.
Yep, I like to keep the gifts too. Does that make sense? Do you agree? Or, I mean, if you don't agree, that's fine. That's just my thought process.
Um, well, here's the thing. Let's say our opponent taps out for Tef. We cannot win the game. Like, I guess we could win the game if
If we draw a land,
if we draw land and they don't have force negation. Um, I guess we're going for it.
so unfortunately, if one of these rituals was a Manamorphose, we could beat Force Negation here.
Yeah.
Alternatively, we could just wait and gifts in response to their Teferi. Um,
That's
I don't
true.
know.
I
I don't know
don't
what you
mind
think.
that. I like that line more.
The other thing that maybe jamming Brawl on turn 2 was better is they didn't have a red
They're just
mana up.
showing us
There's
the surgical, which is another card that we could have lost to.
yes.
Come on, play Teferi, coward. Yes. I will now gifts. I'm gonna say that, then they're gonna be sitting in the second surgical.
Yeah. Now, if the opponent is playing Raveler, excuse me, knowing our hand, Bryant, that pretty hard screams either surgical or force negation. Do you agree?
What card? Oh, Teferi. Sorry, I was
Yes.
like Reveler, like Bedlam Reveler. I don't know.
Sorry, my fault.
Um,
Raveler. Yes.
so I'm pretty confident on Past and Flames and Empty here.
I
What
agree.
are other cards that we should be like? Do we want Morphos? Do we want to get a Veil?
I don't like Veil because you already have one. Um, what do you think about? I mean, Aria Flame we could get.
We can
Um,
bounce it with Teferi.
they can bounce with the fairy. We could also get. Um, I feel like we probably need to have a Morphos access either in our hand or in the graveyard. That's just my inkling, and then maybe like Serum Visions. I don't know.
Okay, they're probably gonna give us Visions because it's the worst card in the pile.
Okay. So I guess the reason why I said Aria is we could go Brawl, and then do we could kill Time Raveler with Aria. The
They
problem
gave
is we
us
have to burn
Empty.
a lot of our hand. That means they have to have Supreme Verdict, right?
Yeah.
Which isn't terrible because we can. That's a good draw. We can get them to a position where they have to. I guess it wasn't a graveyard. Sorry, I have it in the graveyard. My fault. We can. You might think Empty the Warrens, they gave us it, probably is bad because they have Supreme Verdict, but we might be able to get to a point where we force the opponent to cast Supreme Verdict and tap 4 mana.
It's looking pretty good for us so far.
Yep. Yep.
You might be thinking, like, why didn't you cast Serum Visions first there? You open yourself up to so much risk if you cast Serum Visions there, and then they force your Manamorphose. So sometimes people will bait you with, like, an F6 trick. Why bother? So this is me being ultra paranoid. The only way we lose this game is that they have the other surgical.
Yep.
So is it worth here not getting a group shot? Instead, what we could do is we could get Manamorphose, triple cantrip, or Manamorphose Aria.
So my thought is, which again is maybe different than yours, but my thought would be to get, since we have the other Piff, would be to get like Manamorphose, Ritual, Desperate, and then another Gifts and Given, and then continue the chain again and give us more chances to draw Grape Shot. That was my. That was isn't that sort of free to do it that way?
Yeah, I suppose it is. Yeah, it is pretty free. We're getting down to 5 minutes. Just trying to keep that in the back of my head. That wasn't for you.
That's fine.
Oh, we didn't want. My bad. Not Grape Shot. Undo.
Yep.
Gifts.
Yep.
Sorry, I just.
Yep. And like again, because we have the second Pass in Flames that we drew this, and we have enough mana, this just lets us go through the chain again, and gives us another chance to draw Grape Shot.
So I think our opponent made a pretty wise play there of not giving us the Morphos.
I may have cast a cantrip there first, but I guess we don't technically. There's a Grape Shot. Awesome. Technically, if that's a bad play on my part, because if we cast the cantrip and then the opponent surgicals the Morphos, then we're short on blue, but we do have the one other blue mana for Breeding Pool that Bryant is holding up Veil of Summer with. I think our opponent, if they had Force Negation, they would have cast it by now.
Yeah.
They probably don't, but man, this is a very well played game. Great job.
I mean, Mitch, you're a part of it. I didn't do this all on my own. That was a never mind. Bad Scrubs reference. Love Scrubs. But we won match number 3. Mitch, you're leading us to a 5-0. How do you feel about that?
I feel like that was a really sweet game. That was a really sweet set. I think we played very well, and that one of Empty the Warrens is continuing to show up. I love it.
Yeah. I wonder if they had the Verdict in hand. They also missed the 4th land drop unless they were like holding it back, looking to bait us. Mitch, we're back for round number 4. You've carried us this far. I hope you can carry me one more round. Would you keep this hand against an unknown opponent?
One more round, 2 more rounds, my friend.
Oh, I just assume we're going to win round number 5.
Okay.
But I'd probably keep this. This seems like a realistic hand.
Yep, this hand's great.
Ghost Quarter. Amulet Titan?
Yep.
This is an okay hand against Titan.
Yeah, we just need to find basically Gifts and Given. Just play Brawl turn 2, and we have a turn 3 kill if we can find it.
I would bottom both of these. You good with that?
Yep. Land is a decent draw, though.
If one of those was a Morphos, I actually would have kept Morphos.
I agree.
So here our opponent's looking to play a blue-green, like style land. Tap the Ghost Quarter, bounce the Ghost Quarter, play a 3 mana creature that allows them to play more lands. It's been a while since I've faced Amulet Titan. I don't think they play Zuza anymore, or if they do, it's like a 2 of. Is that correct?
Ooh, no, yeah, usually. No Karoo land is good for us here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. In general, I don't know how you feel about this matchup, Bryant. I think it's pretty favorable for Storm. We're just quicker than them.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I probably shouldn't have fetched there, if I'm being honest. I wasn't really thinking. I was sort of just clicking. I think it probably would have been better to play the Spire Bluff, because I just shuffled in 2 cards we didn't want into our deck.
That and if this game goes to a turn 4 and our 4th land is a Spire Bluff,
Yeah.
it's a small thing too. But
Yeah. So that was definitely a misplay on my part. But Mitch, we're just gonna draw Gifts and Given for turn. How do you feel about that?
we're probably going to draw Empty the Warrens, actually.
The math checks out. I was looking up an Amulet list and then I got distracted. I don't know if they even play Azusa anymore. One Azusa in the first list. One Azusa.
I've never played Amulet Titan, Bryant, but it's interesting to me the opponent, if they kept 7, would keep a hand without a bounce land.
Yeah.
I mean, they clearly would have played the bounce land there, right? I mean, like, obviously double Amulet, like, they can do some really explosive stuff.
Well, the reason not to play a bounce land, Mitch, is if right now they have a bounce land, they can play Titan. Because they'll get to untap that bounce land twice, giving them 6 mana.
You're right. That's true. So their hand, in that case, would not have a Zusa or one of those 3 mana creatures you talked about.
We're in a pretty risky spot because if they have Titan here, we don't hypothetically. Let's say we're not the luckiest people on Earth. Let's say we don't draw gifts. We can cast Serum Visions. If we don't draw gifts off that, we can opt. But then you have to run into exactly Morphos gifts.
Or technically Morphos Piff would let us
Yeah.
go through that loop one more time, right?
Colony Garden. All right, so that's only 5 mana? 4 mana? Does Ghost Quarter put a land into play tapped?
I believe it's untapped.
And then no additional land.
Wow.
That was a good draw.
That's a pretty good draw. Yep, that's a pretty good draw.
Look at me not getting punished by playing my lands wrong. That's a payoff, technically.
It is.
I think here I'm just going to pass. And then next turn we can play... I guess I could play Horn now.
Yeah, I was going to say, so the options are we can pass. We can also... I definitely think we need to leave up Remand for sure, right?
Yeah.
You're agreeing with me there. So we can go Rit, Horn, or we can pass, and then if our opponent doesn't play something we want to remand, we can double opt.
I like the double opt line only because it gives you a clean kill with Past in Flames or Gifts and Given if you find it, where the Birgi kill is still random. If we don't draw anything off these ops, I'm 100% going in on Birgi. But right now it feels like we're more likely to have a deterministic kill. So why not give yourself the opportunity? Maybe I'm wrong.
And just to clarify, going it all in Birgi, you mean playing the Horn half, correct? Like not playing Birgi here. Yeah.
Both halves to me are Birgi.
Okay. I gotcha.
Hornfell. Horn of Bounty.
I also think immediately, right, we don't have...
Oh no, Magic Online's dying.
Uh-oh.
My opponent was such a jerk and they put a bunch of triggers on the stack.
Your Eternal Glory podcast mate, Phil Gallagher, always restarts Moto after, what, like 2 rounds?
Yeah, I never do that. So they're transmuting for a 0, so they're going to get packed. Cavern of Souls. That does play around our Remand.
It does.
It's only 5 mana. Unless they have a Zuza. Oh! Ah. So they... If I remand this, I just want to think. So if I remand the Grazer, they have green-white tap land in their hand. They can replay it. I think I'm supposed to remand it just for the trigger and the draw.
I agree. Yep.
I mean, they played this well. Props to our opponent.
Yep. I probably would have been grape shot there. I don't know if that's right or wrong.
That's fair. In my mind, I thought that maybe we wanted to keep it in case we drew the other grape shot and just like natural kill, because I feel like we're pretty
Yep.
likely to draw land off one of these ops. But
The
maybe that's
concern
not true.
is, with 2 amulets, can our opponent get the Boros Garrus, like the combination that lets them have haste and then double strike, and then we're forced to chump block?
Maybe. I didn't think of that. That's a good point.
I mean, there really isn't, like, because the opponent was heads up and got cavern. I don't know if we can play around that. Ooh. Yep, Dryad making all of those
we're
those
just
lands
dead.
mountains.
This is cool.
Yeah, really, really good tech by the opponent for sure.
I think we're dead. That's a bummer. Alright, let's try. I want to see a few cards. So I would have bottomed that. I would have drawn that for turn. We would have Morphosed and Amorphos.
Mm-hmm.
We were probably playing Birgi. Okay. That would have been an interesting turn.
Yep.
Okay, so how would you like to board here?
It's interesting.
So it looks like they have Dismembers. Is cards that they're likely going to board in. Pact Negation. We could try to be heads up and board in Veils. I mean,
Seems a little bit narrow to me, but we could.
yeah. I mean, it does stop Pact and Dismember. I mean, it's really narrow, but I don't know if I actually like anything else.
The other one that's interesting is Abrade, because yes, you can snipe Amulet or you can kill like Azusa if they play it, but by the time you do
Azusa's
that,
a one-of.
chances are the damage is already done by those cards. So I kind of tend to think Abrade is a trap here as well.
So if you're not boarding in Veil, which is the card I would probably board in, I could see Echoing Truth or possibly the Dismembers to kill Dryads.
Yeah, they're both really medium to me, man. If I'm being honest, I could be talked into doing either one of them.
I think I'm going to do these.
Okay.
They have Pact Negation. They have Dismember. Like I don't think it's great, but it's something that we could have to protect our Brawl or whatever.
Right. And obviously Empty the Warrens is very poor. So
Cannot keep that. This is interesting in the fact that I don't know what I would bottom here. Like this is really tough. I think it's probably Opt.
okay, interesting. My inclination is either the Opt or the Ritual. I think those are really the only two. You're not bottoming Brawl, you're not bottoming the 2 lands, you're not bottoming Remand.
So the reason I would bottom the Opt is that I want to play to us achieving our goal, and if we're gonna win by turn 3 or turn 4, we need the Ritual.
Okay, I buy it.
Um, like keeping the ops, like you're like if you keep the op, you probably have to cantrip for a ritual anyway, right?
Yeah, could be.
Come on. Maybe I should pull a Phil Gallagher and restart after this match. Could have taken the slight there. I like the Morphos.
No, Morphos for sure. So again, here's our situation where, like, yes, if we had a Braid in our deck and we had a Braid in this board state, it would be very good. The
Yeah.
problem is if you draw it later, like if we had a Braid in our deck and we didn't have it in our hand now and we don't draw it next turn, it's probably too late after that.
Yep.
Right?
It's an early Bajuka Bog.
Very early Bajuka Bog. So assuming that we draw like land, or let's just say assume we draw land, we're 100% cantripping Manamorphos here, right?
Yeah, I think so.
We have to. Yep.
Brawl was a bad draw.
That was not a good draw, I agree.
Oh. So in theory, you could go for it here.
But we only get one extra draw.
Well, I would be looking
Well,
to
technically we could...
remand my own ritual.
Okay.
Um,
So if we do that line where we remand our own ritual, we're getting one draw off the remand, right? One draw off the brawl loot,
yep.
and then we're getting another draw off the Morphos when we flash it back. So that's 3. We're seeing 3 cards.
Yeah, I'm just
potentially
gonna pass
4. I agree with you. I don't think we're quite there yet.
I'm an aggro deck.
Brawl beats are great.
I mean, Piff wasn't the worst. Just throwing that out there.
No. Mm-hmm.
And here's Dismember. So if we had gone for it last turn, I think I'm going to remand this just because...
I agree with you.
But now I know to not discard the other Brawl.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's interesting.
How many Dismembers were on the list you looked at? 2?
3.
3?
I think it's supposed to be the other Brawl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so again, hindsight's always 20/20. If we would have gone for it there, we could have gotten... I think we had enough mana to get the Horn in play. Right?
Yeah. I'm just going to play the Brawl.
Yep, I think we have to.
Like, you could try to cantrip and get lucky into a land, but then if you miss, you're an entire turn cycle behind.
Yep.
Or next turn, let's say we get to untap, we can Serum Visions into Rit, Past in Flames, Morphos into one of the Scries.
So this is Castle for Titan. See what they get here. Of note, being at 17 is quite relevant because they can't double strike kill us.
Yep.
Unlike game 1, they don't have the Dryad, so like getting Valakut doesn't really do a lot here. Have you ever played Amulet, Bryant, or no?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever played Amulet Titan, or no?
I have not. I faced it plenty of times
either.
in the past, though.
It's actually a very complex deck to play.
I believe that.
In my opinion. Like, I've never played it. Interesting about me, I actually don't play a lot of combo outside of Storm. I love Storm, but, like, I don't really get a lot of enjoyment out of Ad Nauseam. I don't, for whatever reason, like I don't. If I play something else, it's usually a fair deck.
A lot of people have asked me why I didn't choose Ad Nauseam when I got into Modern. And the truth is, I didn't think the Ad Nauseam deck was very good, and I like winning.
Hmm.
So I
Fair,
decided to play Gift
fair.
Storm.
Yeah. It's in the past before the Simian Spirit Guide ban has had a moment in time where it was very good, but the moment wasn't long.
So this is interesting because Gruul Turf is going to make an extra green. I don't know if that's going to be relevant or not. It also bounces the Bajuka Bog, but they've already played a land for turn. So if they have an Explorer, they can remove the Morphos from the game.
Hmm. Yeah.
Excuse me. I don't know what's with
Obviously,
me tonight.
the one thing that would, I mean, in order to have a chance to win this game, we need to untap with the Brawl in play. Like the game is lost if we don't do that.
All right, so we know that they have the Karoo. So they've played a land. Now they give Primeval Titan haste. Oh, wow.
Gross.
Oh, wow. They played that so well.
Yep. His opponents played very well. I agree.
We just lost.
Yep. So I don't know. Maybe we were supposed to go for it. I feel like our opponent has had they played very well for sure, but they've also had pretty good hands. Particularly this game.
I mean, like, when were we? You mean on the remand turn?
Right. That the turn where we could have drawn 3 cards deep, and our top card happened to be Birgi.
Yeah. I'm just flabbergasted at the sequence of events that just happened.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
We'd hit the land too. Wow.
Yeah. We can't splice these because we don't have enough mana.
Yep. Yep.
Where's Dead?
Yeah, I mean, unless our opponent doesn't have the double strike land in their deck, which I can't imagine they don't.
I mean, we might as well make them have it, right?
Yep. Yep.
So they're definitely replaying Bajuka Bog, so are we supposed to keep? I think, honestly, you're supposed to put Visions on the bottom and keep Opt on top. Because the fact that Visions doesn't, like, give you any quality.
And I think we just have to play Electromancer, and then in some crazy world that we're not dead, we get to untap and play Horn and try to go from there.
Yeah. I mean, we're dead, but we might as well make them show us.
So in this game, the difference was our opponent drew 2 of their maybe like 4 to 6 answers to Brawl / Electromancer in their top 15 cards. Like that was the
Yeah.
that was the difference.
And they're
when you're
able to
playing-
give their Primeval Titan haste here, so they have lethal.
Yep, we are dead.
All right, I'm going to save them some clicks and just concede. So, unfortunately, Mitch, we are not getting the 5-0. I'll take fault for this. It was all me. You played perfectly. But number 5 will be coming up in just a second. All right, Mitch. We've opened up a stunner. This thing is terrific. I don't know what our opponent's playing, but I'm keeping this.
Yep, looking at Goldfish, our opponent has played 4-color Urza as of yesterday.
Well, that's a Lantern of Insight. So, Mitch, I have bad news. There's a good chance we never cast Thassa's Oracle.
Yeah, that sucks.
I really thought that we were going to get to face Heliod at least once this league.
Yeah, it's always funny how that works when you want to try some things and it takes you forever, and then as soon as you take the card out of your deck, you inherently play against it like 4 times.
I think I want this Birgi.
I think we do too.
I'm also not against the opt.
Nope, I'm not either.
So is Lantern like still a played deck?
I guess.
I mean I just haven't seen it in a long time. So they're keeping Trophy, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that we can probably. I mean, I could play out the Birgi as a creature for them to Trophy. We get a free land out of it, but is that worth it?
You could do that. Our other option is like opt into Serum Visions if they give it to us. The other option is we pass
And then unset gifts.
written gifts, and I kind of like the last option better.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is we don't have to do it right now. We can also gifts next turn and not sacrifice the ritual.
Correct. If we were going to do that, then my inclination would be to opt sorcery speed so that we can get Serum Visions.
Yeah. Yep. Like that's why I stopped in the second main. Is that this is what I would.
And I think we're probably fetching first.
Yep.
Unfortunately, scrying is much less powerful when they have Lantern and Pixis in play.
Oh no! Should I bottom this? Because I don't know if I want that getting exiled.
Probably. Didn't think about that.
Yeah, I just realized. Well, I guess it's good that we bottom the cage.
Yep.
Or bottom the piff, not the cage. So how do we win this now? I guess we could win via empty. So we're probably using gifts for 4 cantrips.
Yep. And this is an example of a game where, yes, if we had repeal in our deck, we have an out to Grafdigger's Cage, but we don't have it in our hand. There's no guarantee we'd ever get it, right?
Yep. Come on. My computer's so laggy. And I said I was going to restart and I didn't.
The opponent probably has 2 to 3 copies of Ensnaring Bridge in their deck, so we're, our outs to win this game, I guess, in theory, we could potentially draw up enough spells to double Grape Shot.
What do you think about getting 3 bears here and then a cantrip? Like, we know that their last card is Trophy.
I like it, actually.
Mitch liked one of my ideas. I can finally go to sleep at night. I am so excited right now.
So, I don't know about you, Bryant, but part of me feels like that our slim out back into this game is to get them to Trophy, and then we get the Horn into play.
Exactly. That's what I was just thinking.
Yep. The Horn really mitigates their ability to manipulate the top of our library also.
So we can also just jam Horn here.
We can, but then it gets trophied, right?
Yeah, but we have 2 of them.
Oh, okay, sure, because they gave it to us.
So how do you think? Do you like that idea?
Let's see. The other play we could do. Let me just think about this for a second. We could go Brawl, and then Ritual, and then if our opponent trophies the Brawl in response, then we can play Horn.
Honestly,
What do
I
you
think
think
I
about
just
that?
like the playing playing the horn because they're gonna trophy anyway, and this way, like I don't have to burn rituals in case we don't win.
Okay.
Like it's just like why spend resources? Like that's the part I don't understand. Like what are we gaining?
Fair enough. Good question. My answer is, which I'm again not saying my line is perfect or anything, would be we're gaining a little bit of tempo by having the Horn in play. Um, and again, there's no guarantee the opponent trophies Baral, right? They might not, but Thopter Foundry on top of their deck, if the opponent finds Sword of the Meek, um, then our outs to win are even less. So like right here in this situation, right, we would have if they had trophied Brawl, we would have the Horn in play with a chance to try to do something here, but the opponent does happen to have Ensnaring Bridge on top of their deck, and sort of feels like that's a lock to me in game one.
I mean, we can still double grape shot our opponent.
True. Yeah, so I guess you're right. If our line is double grape shot, then my ritual play was wrong.
Oh baby, we're going places.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
All right. Honestly, I think I'm good with discarding the brawl here. Like I just want more
Mm-hmm.
cards. So, Mitch, how do you feel about just discarding our whole hand?
Um, yeah, probably. I mean, I think obviously our first play is going to be um,
This remand is technically
Electric.
lethal if they let us have it.
Well,
All right, let's start doing the broken stuff. I can't believe they let us do all that.
yeah, big mistake by our opponent to let. I mean, they obviously can see the grape shot, right? So that was a mistake on the opponent's part.
Oh, there's also two grape shots in there. I didn't even
Oh,
realize
there
that.
is. Yeah, I didn't either. I only saw one too.
Boom!
Giddy up, Horn.
Nice graph
Toot
digger
your horn.
stage, nerd. Let's see Celundi Vision win that. All right, so
Yep.
I think that we probably want the Arias. We saw trophy
Yep.
and discard. I like the idea of Veil of Summer.
The
Uh,
opponent is likely to have Leyline of Sanctity, um, which means that Arya would, if we play Arya, they play Leyline, happen to draw Leyline afterwards, in that exact scenario, Leyline would eventually kill us. I still think we bring it in. I agree.
we could, in theory, board an Oracle.
We could. We
I
could.
don't know if that's what we want to do. We have 70 cards at the moment, so we definitely have to board out 10.
Yep.
Um,
The opponent's last deckless Bryant did play one Unmoored Ego. It's only one card, but I do um, like diversifying our threats to win the game.
so how do you feel? This is crazy, but this is what I used to do. I used to board out Gifts and Given in this matchup because I knew that ley lines were coming in.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if you like that or not.
Um, Personally, I would leave two in the deck
Okay. I
if it were
like
me.
boarding out Remand, by the way, because I feel like most of their stuff's pretty cheap.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Remain's very good.
Um,
I mean, it was good there, um, but in general, I don't think the card is great. I agree.
so the question is, do we really want to do this Thassa's Oracle thing? Also, do we want Arias if we're expecting ley lines? Because this targets an opponent, and if we play it and then they play Land of Sanctity, we have to target ourselves.
Um, I still think diversifying our ways to win the game. I like Arya better than Thassa's Oracle here, but
Okay.
if you want to play it just for the memes, like I don't blame you for
I
it.
mean, I want to win. Uh, like that's what I care about. But we also need to find five more slots to board out, and we have 50 seconds, 55
Sure,
seconds. What
sure.
would you board out here?
Um, I would shave one piff. if it were me.
Okay. Now we have four. Do we
Given that,
four cantrips? Like, I don't know. We could
um,
board out Goblin Electromancers.
yeah, I try to leave in at least 10 cantrips when we're going on the Arya plan. That's just my stance. If you want to board them out, I understand.
We could board out one
Um,
Grape Shot maybe, but then if one gets removed, like,
then we also lose the ability to double grape shot, which we just did in that game.
I'm gonna board out
I'm
Drop.
okay. Okay,
Actually,
I'm
wait.
okay trimming a ritual here too, just a single ritual.
I don't like
But
Serum Visions. I'm gonna board two of those out. So the reason I don't like
okay,
Visions here, sorry, making sure I submitted, is that with Lantern and what is it called?
Pixis of Pandemonium, our scries are not near as powerful.
Exactly.
Yep.
So you get a
Yep.
random draw. This hand could be really good if we draw a blue source. I don't know if that's worth it. They
No,
also if
I
they
think
just
we
lead
ship.
on Cage.
Yeah, I think we ship this. Hmm. I think we keep this hand. I don't. I think it's better than our average 5, don't you?
I'm not sure if I'm being completely honest, but I'm willing to try it.
I mean, again, by no means is it a great hand, but I don't think it's an awful hand either.
I want that canal. I'm just not gonna fetch.
Mm-hmm. And if our opponent is like heads up enough that they want to sacrifice their lantern, if they have the read that word, that's fine.
Well, I mean, they can just Pixis it away as well.
Mm-hmm. So, just an interesting thing there, Brian. Because our scries aren't as good, did you give any thought to, because we're going to cast Serum Visions? Well, I guess, never mind. Brawl's a better play. So, my thought process was, which is clearly worse than this, was to Serum Visions just to get the Sleight of Hand and then cast Sleight of Hand. But the Brawl play is better. I agree.
Well, they could also just Pixis in response.
True.
Like, to me, we had the action spell already. We have Birgi. Like,
Yep.
my plan is to play Horn. I'm really bummed that we're not going to get to cast the Thassa's Oracle this league, though. Sad.
I'm just looking at what outs our opponent has to the Horn. If they're playing the list they're playing before, it looks like 2 copies of Assassin's Trophy
Ooh,
is
Sphere.
just about it.
Um, so Sphere is actually kind of an issue.
It is.
We have the
Yep.
Echoing Truth, so I think we're supposed to set up an end step Echoing Truth into stuff.
So you like casting Serum Visions here and then passing.
I think they're gonna um, exile the Aria first, but we can try.
Okay, that's fine. I still think we're casting Serum Visions, though, don't
Ooh,
you?
I love the Morphos draw.
See, Bryant, just gotta listen to me, man. Just kidding.
All right, let's. Do we want the land? I don't think we do.
Okay. My inclination was yes, but if they're not gonna give us that. Um,
Well, if we wanted to right now, oh no, we can't cast Morphos. My bad.
Not this turn. That's correct. Your rationale for not wanting the land there?
Oh, because my plan next turn is we're going to try to win with Birgi. We will reveal lands.
Sure.
So, will I draw one?
Sure. That's fair. And our opponent is more than likely to leave a land on top of our deck,
That is true.
even though we did just show them.
Oh no!
That's really
Are they
bad
smart enough
for
to
us.
name Horn here?
I would guess, since they
Yep.
lost to it last game. Gross. So did you not Echoing Truth the Sphere there because of the Needle.
Yeah, we can't win, so why bother? Um,
Yeah.
so I think here I'm gonna cast Morphos, and then they're gonna have to sacrifice their lantern.
Do you want to wait till we draw first because we're gonna lose the mana?
They're exiling our braid.
Oh, in response. Okay, I see what you're saying. Sorry, I didn't see that. Yeah, that's fine.
Like I want this a braid, so they have to sack the lantern right now if they're going to. So many Bergs.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think we're just on the beat plan.
Yeah, I mean our opponent is hellbent, right? So they do have a pretty they do have us on a lock with cage and needle and sphere.
I guess they could go get another lantern with the Inventor's Fair.
I think this is just jam Birgi, right?
Yeah. She's got a big butt.
Certainly does.
Big sword. 3/3s ain't nothing to fuck with. We don't get to see what's exiled. So now they're going to use the fair. I imagine they're getting a lantern with this. Maybe they could just go get what is it called? Ensnaring Bridge, and then just like hope to draw into other stuff. But I don't think. I think they're supposed to just Sun's triplets. I'd have to read that. It's like an EDH general.
Yep. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose target opponent. This turn, that player can't cast spells or activate abilities with their hand revealed. You may play lands and cast spells from that player's hand this turn.
So how does this impact us? Every turn we just can't cast spells?
They get to choose a target opponent at the beginning of their upkeep.
So it's a silence?
And they can play
Lands
cards from our hand. Yes, and cast spells. Jeez. And yes, that is an EDH special.
Boom! All right.
Mercy. Holy smokes.
What are we doing here? I think we should start on destroying or bouncing the sphere because that will save mana. Maybe tap this.
Now,
so if you start by bouncing the sphere and then killing the needle, it saves you a mana.
Alternatively, we could. Again, I agree with this line. We could abrade the Send triplets, and continue the beatdown plan.
Sure,
that's an option. I don't think it's as good. This feels like our window to win. So yes, I like this.
I'm not even sure how many rituals I'm going to play. Like I'm going to only play what I need to cast the horn. So this should give us enough mana to cast horn.
Mm-hmm.
Both halves in play. We're living the dream. Oh, that's good.
Yep.
That could have been better. Mitch, before we continue, what do you think of not discarding the ritual? Just in case we find something where we want the mana, or is that just silly because of the fact that we can turn visions into Morphos? Like, is the 2 cards just better?
Um, so good question. I feel like from this spot, I'm inclined to cast Serum Visions first, because then we can. I mean, the negative is they're not going to see what we're scrying, but they could pix us in response to our scry. But that makes our horn activation better. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Like, I guess I'm saying, I like your question, but I think we do this first, and then
Ooh.
address that at a later time.
These are both good.
They are both good. I agree. And actually, Bryant, we're going to be in a position here where if we don't win this turn, we can kill send triplets.
Yep.
So our opponent did do the play I described, and they picks a star, our one cantrip. So now here's the interesting question: is it better to sleight of hand, which adds to storm count, but takes away a blue mana, or is it better to horn?
That's what I was just wondering.
It's a great question.
I think I like casting just because right now we have nothing else in exile, so like we don't necessarily need the blue mana yet.
Okay.
Ooh,
Is that the other copy of a braid?
it is. So I'm gonna discard the ritual. I
Yep.
want to hang on to the grape shot for now.
Yep. Man, Bryant, the horn is so good.
Yeah, and can you
So
believe
good.
people don't play this card?
Yeah, it's so good.
I'm not casting Arya.
I think my inclination is we take it though. Over the, I mean, I guess we're gonna it really doesn't matter. We're gonna discard it. You're right.
Oh, we hit the Ancient Grudge.
Holy smokes!
So this is our last blue mana for this. Aw, come on.
Dang.
So we got a 4/1. I say that like I'm angry. Although, Mitch, I don't think I got my play points back.
Yes.
Before
You,
we started recording our round one, I realized that I accidentally entered a league with the wrong deck list, so I just immediately dropped.
deck list that you may see in a future video.
Yeah, but we were also in round one, so I didn't get my play points back. Like I'm just down 100 play points.
Yep.
But Mitch, what did you think of the deck list outside of no Thassa's Oracle?
Yeah. Deck list felt pretty good. I think we did see the empty the Warrens quite a bit, and it was pretty solid in the games that we did see. We played against. We talked after round two. We played against some odd things with tokens round one, and was it like a Hogak or some Vengevine deck. Hogak's banned, right?
Yeah.
So that part of me did a little bit miss the third grape shot. I've been on kind of a 3 grape shot kick with you as well. In multiple matches, the horn has just been very
So
good. Birgi has also been a little bit better than in this league. I think it's been better. It was better this league, the Birgi half of it, than it's been for me in the past. I'm still playing 2 as well with you. I like the 4 Baral, 2 Electromancer, 2 Birgi split. We did not get to see Weather the Storm in any matchup that we played. Did you feel at all about? Sorry, did you miss not having Lightning Bolt at all?
No, we also didn't face Burn though. The same matchup where
Right.
we would have won Weather.
Right.
I don't think we used the Dismembers, but I considered boarding them against Titan.
Obviously, we didn't play Heliod, which, as we talked about before, the Thassa's Oracle is for that matchup, and the Dismember is among for other things, but also a hedge towards Heliod.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall, I thought we had some sweet matches. It was kind of funny to lose to Amulet, which was, I would consider, a pretty decent matchup for Storm. I thought the Jeskai control match was sweet. I
Our
thought that
opponent played
last
so
matchup
well,
was
by
also
the way.
sweet.
Like you
They
can't
did.
take that away from them. They played
No,
that
100%.
beautifully.
100%. No, and I forgive me if I came across that way. I'm not trying to come across that the opponent played very well.
What did you think
And
of 2 Breeding Pool, by the way?
it felt fine. I don't think there was a matchup where we ended up having both of them in play. Forgive me if I'm wrong on that. We did have a couple hands where we had the basic mountain as our only land source and had to ship it.
Yep.
I don't know in that league. The Hogak, or sorry, I keep saying Hogak. The Vengevine deck is pretty aggressive, so I'm just thinking about in terms of like losing a couple points of life, a point or two more on average because of not playing Breeding Pool. That didn't affect us too much.
I'm a
Because we
basic
didn't play
mountain
Burn, we
stan.
didn't play Blitz.
Yeah. I'm gonna continue to play this. I thought the Breeding Pools
Oh,
were fine. We did
for
have
sure.
both in play, by the way, against the Jeskai deck. Just throwing that
We did.
out there.
Okay. Oh, that's right. That's right. And me saying that us drawing Basic Mountain, that was not me saying don't play Basic Mountain. I 100% think we have to play Basic Mountain. It's just the way the hands worked out. Arya was okay. I don't remember it winning us.
Cast it.
Winning us a matchup at all. The first match again was a little bit weird. Our opponent like conceded like super prematurely in both games that we played. But I will remember this league for the Jeskai control match, which was sweet, and that last matchup where the Horn literally won us both games.
Yeah.
Now we did draw quite well in game 2 to find the Abrade and then the Echoing Truth and whatnot. The Abrade is kind of what unlocked things for us in that matchup. Before we were about to get smacked in the face by Send triplets. First time I've ever said that in Modern. Sweet tech from the opponent, though. Really enjoyed playing with you again, Bryant, as always. I thought it was a super fun league. Didn't quite get the 5-0. Have to work on that going forward, but thanks for having me on again.
Thank you for joining me. I mean, you're a master, Mitch. Don't sell yourself short. I mean, you had a lot of great insight this video, and I really do appreciate you joining.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sure Mitch will come back at some point soon. Mitch, I love having you here on the channel. And everyone, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Hey, Brian Cook here. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, but also follow the social media channels down below. If you want to support this content directly, I would recommend going to theepicstorm.com/shop. And if you need a little bit of assistance with the Epic Storm to get to that next level, I would recommend going to theepicstorm.com/tutoring. Don't worry, there's more great content coming right up.